Good morning. Happy Friday to everybody. Aloha Friday. Let us move on to looking at where crypto is. Crypto did sell off, came down here to 67,192. It has been working its way back up to 68,800, pretty close to 800 at one point. It's pulling back a little bit. We'll just kind of see where that settles. Hope we either way, if it gets up to 33 on BitX, we'll have won both ways. So that is the story there. Let us go over to a word of the day. Our word of the day is extemporize. Extemporize. Compose, perform, or produce something such as music or a speech without preparation. Improvise. It's kind of what I do every day here is improvise. At the Poetry Slam, I'll extemporize a piece instead of reading written poems. Let us go over to our S&P 500 heat map. So NVIDIA is up. Interesting, Semtech was down quite a bit in the semiconductor area. Amazon, consumer defensive continues to struggle. Exxon is down. Some of the other oil and gas are doing better. Well, I just want to double check, make sure we're looking at the latest and the greatest here in the S&P 500 heat map. Refresh. NVIDIA is up 0.6. Broadcom is actually down. Qualcomm is down. Micron is down. American Express is down. Netflix had a big pullback. It came from 740 and they pulled back to around 690. They're bouncing this morning, gapping up. So that is the story there. Let us move over to lending. You know, we have one of those every 10 years or so where the market's based on the economy pulls back. Some people believe we're going to have a soft landing. This account actually beats index investing by about 5% per year. As you can see, it goes up the step. It's not come down when the market goes down and just keeps going up when the market goes up. So that is the story. And currently they're offering 10% plus bonuses. If you'd like to learn more about that and you don't want to treat your falling down, falling a 401k into a 201k, please let me know. Let us go over to our charts. This is Sezzle. Sezzle, we're looking at that yesterday. I'm just going to see if this is the most, it's not actually showing up here on the chart. I'm not sure why. There we go. Try to move higher and then pull back. It's down 2.13%. This is our IPO of the day. It's really bouncing. It was up around 7% when we looked earlier, gapping up at plus 17%. Guess that's why that is moving up today. Let's go over to our dollar index. Dollar index is pulling back a little bit. So that's a change for the dollar index. And let us go over to silver. Silver is gapping up on that dollar pullback. It's up 3.5% this morning. I would imagine gold is doing something similar. Not as much, but they're up about 1%. Copper came up to the 20-day moving average. It got turned away a little bit. They're still up 1%. Look at uranium. They were up big yesterday. It continues strong today, up at 1.84%. Denison Mines continues up strong, it's at $2.32. So this was really the place to buy when it cleared the double bottom here. 187 would have been the buy point, and it just keeps getting stronger. I do have a short in one of the other accounts at $2.50. We'll see if it gets up there by the time it gets close to expiry. So that is the story there. Let us go to our bonds. This is our bond yield. I'm going to move my here over a little bit, video. And they are pulling back a little bit today, down 0.5%. So we're at 4.07 on the yield. On the 10-year, on the 20-year, we're at 3.8 0.23, pulling back as well, down 0.65%. Take a look at the VIX. VIX continues to pull back and pulls back to its 50-day moving average. It's off 4.3%. It is definitely under the 20, but it is still kind of elevated a little bit. We'll just see if it gets pops. Our target was 26.88. So that is the story with the VIX. S&P 500. The VIX is down a little bit. Wait, our stochastics off. Get a little better look at the chart. Didn't do a whole lot there, but that is the story with the S&P 500. The equal weight, it's pretty close to flat. It's up 0.24% this morning. The NASDAQ with Netflix, it's up about 0.5%. Take a look at Netflix. See that gap up, pulled below the 50-day, and then earnings came out. It was up around 4% after the news last night. So if you would have bought after hours, you could have taken advantage of this. Now, as long as it holds that gap up, safe to continue to hold. So let us move over to IWM. It's pretty flat for the day. I'm not sure if we looked at the equal weight in the NASDAQ. It's up 0.4%, and then the Dow Jones. Our ETF of the day is KWEB. It's up a little over 4% after a number of gaps down, gap down here, filled, but it gets up to the 20-day moving average. And take a look at FXI, gapping up as well, up 4.4%. Financials, holding pretty steady. Energy, pull back and then bounce up again. Oil pricing sold off and they're fighting back as well. Communications, pretty flat. As we looked at China, we're going to take a look at XME. Used a lot in China. So I think this could be a strong area. Both XME and XLB kind of hold very similar areas. XLB is jumping up 0.58%, kind of cleared this area right in here. XLU kind of sold off yesterday, bouncing back about 0.4% today. Real estate looks like it's working on the right side of the base. Kind of see if it'll handle out here. Biotech, some tight closes there. That's actually positive. And the other biotech ETF, pretty flat as well. This is one I kind of like when biotech is trending. It's up 1.15%. Infrastructure, it's holding steady. Semiconductor is pretty flat, holding right around the 10-day moving average. Consumer discretionary. Now take a look at Tesla's holding kind of steady, and Amazon, two biggest components. Amazon is popping up here, up 1.13%. And here's a consumer staples. It's bouncing off of the 10-day moving average. Pretty flat for the day, but it had sold off initially. Healthcare, got a little bit of a bounce there. Home builders, they're up 0.7%. These are some of, oh, look at Dreamfinder's got a nice bounce right here, up 3.82%. I'm trying to look for the other, can't find it right off the hand, but I'll look for that a little later. Transportation. Retail, pretty flat today. Software, a little bit of a bounce. Technology, holding pretty steady there. And when this is a home builders construction, up about 0.81%. So that is where we are right there. Let us go over to the news. China's GDP grew at the weakest pace since early 2023 in Q3 as the property sector continued to drag, more than offsetting better factory output and consumption results. The data supports recent calls for more stimulus. Hezbollah has said it will escalate its war with Israel, making the death of Hamas leader Sinwar. A court-appointed mediator in Canada has proposed a $23.6 billion settlement by Philip Morris, British American Tobacco, and Japan Tobacco to end lengthy litigation. On to our consumer news. Embraer's CEO in interview states out, our focus is to sell current products, no plans for narrow-body aircraft. As of now, says Embraer, still open to partnerships with Boeing. Well, Embraer's pretty flat for the day in the future. So take a look at Boeing. It's pretty flat as well. Garrett, Encino Truck signed letter of intent to bring leading high-speed electrified powertrain to e-trucks. So that is up 0.24%. Penny stock could develop out of penny stock status. Continue to put that on your watch list. Sober Safe shares gapped slightly higher after the NanoCap stock filed the request for withdrawal of registration statement on Form S1. So it is up about 40% today, bouncing between 37 and 39%. Look at all that volume. Really see that. We really need to go over here. We can go to the 60-minute. One time it was at $87. See, it gapped all the way up here to 19, pulling back a little bit. That is an undercut of the gap up. You don't really want to hold on to that, but you could put that on your watch list. Let's move on to, we looked at Tesla earlier, but multiple sources told China Daily that Tesla Incorporated has yet to receive regulatory approval from Chinese authorities to launch its full self-driving or FSD functions in the country, and is seeking permission to gather some data on its own to train its autonomous driving system. On to energy, industrials, and materials. I think they throw the ticker symbol a little backwards there. Forward Air shares gapped up at the end of regular trading after Freight Waves reported that they had retained investment bankers to sell the company. Sources say Expedited Trucking Company said it will be moving forward with the sales process. Going to adjust our news here. I adjusted a little bit too much. And on to Fluor. Fluor announced that their joint venture received notice to proceed on Hanford Integrated Tank Disposition Contract, has estimated a ceiling of $45 billion over 10 years. Fluor will recognize earning from contracting Q4 2024. Crown Holdings reported Q3 results, adjusted EPS $1.99 versus estimate of $1.80, and they gap up and they're surging near the top of the range, up 4.22%. Schlumberger, SLB, entered definitive agreement to sell its interest in the Palliser block. So they are trending down 2.68% today. Bank of the Ozark reported last night Q3 EPS $1.55 versus $1.54. tried to move higher and then sold off, down 4.3%. Ocean First Financial reported last night, Q3 adjusted EPS 39 cents versus 38. Initially sold off and tried to bounce back, down 0.46%. FNB Corp released earnings last night, Q3 EPS 34 cents versus estimate of 35 cents. I typed in the wrong symbol, FNB. Initially sold off and trying to bounce back, down 0.4%. Western Alliance Bank Corp reported last night, Q3 $1.80 versus $1.89. They gapped down on that news, down 6.16%. Sam Altman's WorldCoin rebrands to World, unveils iris scanning orb. New York Community Bank Corp announced it will have 700 employees, which accounts for 8% of its workforce at its subsidiary Flagstar Bank. This move is a part of a broader initiative to strengthen its financial foundation and improve competitiveness. And so it is down 1.53% on that news. Berkshire Hathaway reports that it sold 8.7 million shares of Bank of America in a Form 4 filing. It's pretty flat at $697,643 a share. That is why most people buy the B shares, which is $464 a share. And to look at Bank of America, it's pretty flat for the day. I believe they sold right before this earnings was reported, so they kind of missed out on this move, but I don't think they're hurting. Humacyte in healthcare, shares sold off sharply in the final half hour of trading after FDA discloses summary of violations at Humacyte's Durham, North Carolina facility. They are up actually today, up nearly 7%. They had a big sell-off yesterday. Just our news once more. There we go. Intuitive Surgical reports Q3 adjusted EPS $1.84 versus $1.63. We got a gap up in Intuitive Surgical. It's up close to 9% on the day. Pretty good volume. It had pretty good volume on the downside yesterday. Earnings were 12% earnings surprise, with the earnings up 26% year-over-year quarter. And now we move over to Aura Biosciences. Shares initiated soared in the after hours following an announcement that multiple clinical complete responses demonstrated following single low dose administration of Belsar in patients with non-muscle invasive bladder cancer in an ongoing phase 1 trial. Gaps up 13%, 1,900% increase in volume. Look at the blue bars just descending higher and higher. Earnings are supposed to be up 11% this year. So moving on to Supernus, phase 2A study on SPN 820 in adults with major depressive disorder. Phase 2A study shows rapid decrease in depressive symptoms, well tolerated with adverse events. Shares were volatile to the upside in post-market trading, and they're relatively stable here today, up 0.24%. Tenaya Therapeutics announced updates to TN-201 gene therapy program, independent data safety and monitoring board endorsed dose escalation and broadening of eligibility criteria. Cohort 2 now enrolling, initial data from cohort 1 to be reported in December 2024. Highlights recently presented insights on pediatric MYBPC3 associated HCM. So that is the story with them. They tried to move higher and then they sold off. This is very much a penny stock. Bausch Health rejects bond finders' debt proposals, explores sale of Vision unit, according to the Wall Street Journal. Selling off down to the 20-day, trying to bounce a little bit. They're off 2% today. Merck reports positive results from phase 2B3 trial of Rovinab. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. Let me try once more. Rovimab. I believe that is closer to the correct pronunciation. And Merck is slightly off today. CVS Health is naming a longtime executive David Joyner as its new chief, succeeding Karen Lynch at the helm of the struggling healthcare giant. And they are gapping down on that news, off 7.71%. On to technology, media, and telecom. Here we go with Netflix. Q3 EPS $5.40 versus estimate $5.12 on revenues of $9.82 billion versus $9.769 billion. So net adds were 5.07 million, sees Q4 revenues at 10.13 billion versus estimate of 10.042. Says increased prices in some countries in EMEA, and I'm not sure if that's Europe, and Japan to raise prices in Spain and Italy tomorrow. Shares were higher by 4% in after-hours trading, and we see they are up close to 10% today. So on to NVIDIA. Is reiterated as a buy at Bank of America with a price target raised to 190 from 165 in after-hours note. Intel is looking to sell at least a minority stake in its Altera unit in a transaction that would raise several $1 billion in cash for the struggling chipmaker, according to people familiar with the matter. Intel is looking for a deal that values Altera around $17 billion, said the people who requested anonymity to speak freely about confidential information. Intel purchased Altera for $16.7 billion in 2015 per NBC. Amazon, we looked at earlier, was up slightly. Amazon's cloud boss, Matt Garman, told employees in an all-hands meeting that if they didn't agree with the new 5-day in-office mandate, they could leave for another company per CNBC. And finally, ASML Holding, Taiwan Semiconductor. So ASML is gapping up today, up 3.04%. Taiwan Semiconductor is down slightly, but it's still holding the gap up from yesterday. Our subject of an overnight post from respected tech analyst Ming-Chi Kuo. Market rumors suggest that ASML plans to raise equipment prices for TSMC. However, my understanding is that TSMC is likely to push for price reductions from ASML. So that is all of our news today. Let us go over to our morning routine. Let's check out what is up 10%, a 200% increase in volume. Seen some of these companies here before. Centrus Energy, low-rich uranium, commercial nuclear power plants, and a big range over here. Gap up and came down near the low, and it is continuing higher today, up 19.5%. Drug, which had a big move the other day, is gapping up. I think it was up at 1.900% the other day. It is now up another 146%. It is up higher earlier. Had gone all the way to 69. The low is 34. Develops novel transformative treatment to treat brain diseases. And on to TDS, telephone data systems, up 14.53% today. Pretty good volume, up 1,000%. Oklo, this was the other day. We got a couple of nuclear facilities for the drive for more power. So it has definitely broke out of this, but this has been more prudent angle of action. It is up 23% today. And NNE, which we had profiled a couple of weeks ago, continues higher. It's not quite as volatile consolidation here, up 14.25%. think the better course of action would have been bounce off of the 20-day moving average right over here, kind of lower your risk. So let us go over and just quickly take a look at what's up 5%. There's 16 items. Seabridge Gold. It's up a little over 7%. I'm sure a few of the ones that we've already looked at. There was Netflix, Red Violet, Drug, Centrus, US Cellular, gaps up 6.6%, was up much higher earlier and then sold off. Pretty huge volume. Let's move this down a little bit. Got Seabridge Gold, up 7.5. We got Lenovo, gapping up today, up 6.16%. I think that is with the China trade. Earnings supposed to be up 29% this year, 35% next year. South America, Argentine company, online travel services. Definitely has cleared this lower area here. It's up 5.5% today. Autolive manufactures and supplies a wide range of safety systems to the automobile industry. Gaps up today, gets up to 100 and then sells off, up 5%. Lamb Weston, this, I believe they supply a lot to McDonald's. They're gapping up today. Holdings, Indian provider of business process outsourcing service, had gapped down on their earnings, and it's got a little bit of a recovery today, up 5%. We looked at Nano Nuclear and Alarm Technologies, which was on our list yesterday, gapped up here, and it's up again today, sold off as it, much like yesterday, once it hit the 200-day moving average and sold off. So big thing is it really needs to clear the 200-day moving average. So this, we're going to take a look at our count. This pulls back to the 10-day moving average, is up about 9% this morning. ALAB, just kind of holding right in this category. American Superconductor pulls back to the 10-day moving average. So it'd be nice if this could kind of tighten up a little tighter like it was over in this area. We'll continue to watch that one. We got rid of this one yesterday. Sure enough, it bounces, but didn't really like the action there. Continue to hold options on ELF. It's up nearly 1% today. NVIDIA up about 1%. Oracle pulling back to the 10-day moving average. Look at a couple that we used to hold. App is bouncing off of the 10-day moving average. Samsara is bouncing as well. Dave continues to sell off, so I'm really glad we got rid of that. It did get a little bit of a bounce here. It was off, I believe, about 5% earlier this morning, trying to stay around the 20-day moving average, getting a little bit of support here. And we're just going to pause for a second here.